The Adams Archive.
Hello, you beautiful people, and welcome to the Adams Archive. Today is going to be a fun one. This week's episode is all about presidential body counts. You heard me right. Presidential body counts. And for some presidents, that means something a little bit different than for other presidents. But we're going to explore both of them. From Donald Trump's recent alleged indictment, which has yet to happen, over his financial woes payoff of Stormy Daniels, a porn star who allegedly he had an affair with. We'll get into the details, but that's one way of looking at a body count. And then another way of looking at it is when it comes to, the multiple dozens of bodies that surround the Clinton family. So I thought that would be a fun way to approach this, a little bit different than what everybody else is talking about. So we are going to jump into it all. Why is President Trump being indicted? What is going on with it? Why has it not seemingly happened yet? Is it even going to happen? I have some opinions about that. And then we'll get into the history of the Clinton family's body count. So stick around. It's going to be a fun one. All right, but before we do that, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Just takes about 2 seconds of your time, but it'll make you feel all fuzzy inside, knowing that you are now a part of the Adams Archive movement. That's right. All right, hit that subscribe button. I would appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. Leave a 5-star review if you are already subscribed. If you've already left a review, and if you haven't, head over to the Substack, austinadams.substack.com, and you'll be able to get the podcast companion, all the links, all the articles from this week's podcast, all the fun stuff. So head over there right now, austinadams.substack.com. And that's all I got for you for right now. All right, let's jump into it.
The Adams Archive.
All right. Now, there is one reason that Trump hasn't been arrested. One reason. There's only one. And you want to know why? Because it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. The whole thing, the entire indictment. Okay, it's crazy that this has even made headlines with how silly this entire legal situation is. Right, it's an obvious play by the judicial system. It's an obvious play by the left to kind of keep the smear campaign rolling. So let's talk about it. So the reason that Trump is being indicted right now is not because he paid, like every single article that you find about this says hush money, right? He paid hush money. Right. And that's not the reason why. Right. Paying somebody hush money is not in the way that it was done illegal itself. Right. And essentially it wasn't hush money. It was an NDA. Right. He essentially paid a porn star, Stormy Daniels, an NDA to not come out with some type of expose in 2016, right around his presidential run. So he basically paid her to sign an NDA and say, we're not going to talk about this, right? We're not even going to address this. Now, I'm not saying Trump didn't get into it with Stormy Daniels, and we can't add that one ding ding to his body count. But that's not the conversation at hand, right? It's not, I guess, illegal to have sex with a porn star, even when you're married, right? It might be morally, ethically wrong to do so, but it's not something that a president is going to go to jail over, right? There's all these talks like, oh, is he going to be in handcuffs? Is he going to be like put into general population in the county jail prison system? Like, could you imagine what that would look like? Apparently, there's everybody's saying that there's going to be like the Secret Service is going to be the one to get him, right? Is it going to be the Secret Service? Is it going to be, the local municipality police force, right? Who knows? Right. And again, I don't think this is going to happen. I do not think this will happen. right? I think it's all BS. I don't think anybody's going to indict him. I don't think a jury would ever rule in favor of this like silly, like basically essentially what they're trying to charge him for is not the fact that he screwed a porn star when he was married. It's the fact that he paid her this NDA money through some type of home equity line. That's what it's about. Basically, he mismarked where the money came from through his lawyer and then paid his lawyer back through monthly fees is what they're alleging. Right. So it's like a movement of money ploy. It's a financial misdemeanor. It's not even a felony. It's not even a felony that they're trying to charge him with. It's a misdemeanor that they're trying to charge him with. And they're making this huge fuss over it. If you or I did this, first of all, nobody would ever care. Right. But you'd probably get a letter from the IRS. Nobody's showing up at your house. They're not commissioning thousands of police officers to shut down the roads so that they can put you in handcuffs and get a little video of you walking to the police car and saying your Miranda rights, right? This is all a little show. This is all a little facade. And we're going to talk about maybe some things that I think that it's covering up for, but that's what I think about it, right? The crimes that they're accusing him of committing, first of all, even if they're accurate, and even if he did do these things, they're silly, right? They're silly. It's a smear campaign. It's not an actual movement to get him arrested. It's a weaponization of our judicial system to one of the worst, most like egregious ways that we've ever seen it happen in the United States. He's a former president, right? Whatever you think about Trump, he's a former president, right? Even Nixon was pardoned. Right. Like, obviously, I don't think Biden's going to pardon Trump, even if he gets, not that he would need to based on a misdemeanor charge. But this whole thing is silly. It's all BS. So let's read this article here. It says, as the political landscape continues to heat up in the anticipation of the upcoming election, former President Trump finds himself at the center of a controversial case in Manhattan that has yet to result in an indictment. This case, which revolves around a 2016 payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels, has sparked heated debates on whether the judicial system is being weaponized against Trump to hinder his chances of winning an election. The fact that no former U.S. president has faced an indictment begs the question: is the current political landscape going too far in pursuing charges against Trump? Historical accounts of presidents accused of felonious activities, such as Richard Nixon and Bill Clinton, reveal that these cases were pardoned or settled without charges, highlighting a stark difference in the treatment of Trump's case. Right? And that's not even to talk about Bill Clinton was literally getting one off under the desk in the Oval Office. Talk about salacious acts. And he was not being charged for it, right? He like literally left office on that note and did not get charged, never went to jail. There was no rogue DA like going out on a limb trying to go after him. And I don't think that's what's happening. Obviously, when you'll see with DeSantis called out this attorney, this judge, right? This is the judge. Michael Cohen is the counsel from Trump that basically this whole scheme was around. But he's going after him specifically because of this payment. It's so ridiculous, the entire reasoning. So let's keep going. It says, furthermore, the crime in question seems to be a mere misdemeanor relating to the use of funds, which has already been disproven in an email released by Michael Cohen's counsel. The letter clearly states that Mr. Cohen used his personal funds to facilitate the payment, that neither the Trump organization nor the Trump campaign reimbursed him directly or indirectly. It also argues that the payment does not constitute a campaign contribution or expenditure, and therefore the FEC lacks jurisdiction over the matter. Right? And so Trump truthed out, this is such a stupid term, truth. Trump sent out a message on Truth Social with a letter that everybody is saying basically that they've already written this off. This has already been proven that it was not his money that was being paid out, right? And whether it was a sleight of hand or whatever, it's all still silly. But it goes on to say that amidst the frenzy created by Trump's declaration of his potential arrest and the speculation of an imminent indictment, it is crucial to examine the facts and the broader implications of this case. While it may seem like a mere misdemeanor, the unprecedented nature of this legal battle against a former former president raises concerns about the potential weaponization of the judicial system for political gain. And we saw this at Mar-a-Lago with documents that nothing ever came out of. Right, we saw this with the Russia hoax, as people would call it. Right, we saw this with it. We saw those so many times by now. The fact that any news station is even like, or maybe you can see the news stations and why they would give this some merit, but the fact that any people in the political sphere or even in the common civilian world is giving two shits about this, the fact that this is every headline on every news station across the country right now is silly. There's been so many attempts at arresting Donald Trump, and we know by now that absolutely nothing is going to come of it. Absolutely nothing is going to come of it. Right? No, if they would have had some great way of arresting Donald Trump, don't you think that it would have came out by now? Don't you think that during 2020? Don't you think after January 6th, which he still hasn't been charged for anything there, right? How many times have they tried to come after Trump, and how many times has something actually come out of it? Zero. None. There has not been a single case where out of the multiple times that they've gone after Donald Trump, where anything at all has actually come of it, right? This goes on to say that as the grand jury's decision remains uncertain, the public must remain vigilant and question the motivations behind the case. Is it a genuine pursuit of justice, or is it merely a political tactic aimed at discrediting Trump and diminishing his chances in the upcoming election? History has shown that similar cases involving former presidents were treated with more leniency, and it is up to the citizens to ensure that the judicial system remains impartial and unbiased in its pursuit of justice. Now, let's talk about that, right? What I think out of this, and what I've heard several times by now, is that this is going to do nothing but help Donald Trump. This is going to do nothing but incite his followers to know that exactly what he said all along is what's happening, right? The swamp, the gators out there lurking beneath the surface, the murky political surface, are just coming after Donald Trump once again with some, and maybe it's not even the whole swamp. Maybe it's one guy trying to make his name off of some BS, right? It's just, there's so many negative things that come out of this for the left and so many positive things that come out of this for the right. Again, if nothing happens out of this, what do you think is going to happen for his followers? What do you think is going to happen when everybody realizes, if they haven't already, which is be kind of silly on their part, that this is nothing but like a political game, right? All this is going to do is get his crowd, his followers, to further be motivated to go out and vote and to keep the narrative going, right? I do not think that this will be the end of Trump. And I don't think literally anybody who even believes that this is going to go to a trial or he's going to actually be arrested think that either, right? So if this is not going to hurt Trump in any way, all it's going to do is help him. All it's going to do is bring more voters out in 2024. And it's done nothing too, but like the Trump versus DeSantis situation here is pretty interesting. DeSantis has come out and said that, well, I'm not going to actively pursue Donald Trump because Trump basically went to Mar-a-Lago during all of this in Florida. And DeSantis said that, well, I'm not going to go after Trump. I'm not going to allow them to come in here and do that. I'm not going to play the game. Now, I don't know what that actual division of power actually looks like. Like, does he have the power to stop them from coming in there? I don't believe so if it's the federal government, but it is New York going for him, right? He's not going to, they're not going to go, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And again, I just think nothing's going to come of it. That's my personal opinion. And maybe I'll be wrong. And maybe we'll see a big, huge headline tomorrow of Trump in Trump in handcuffs being walked into a jail cell. Right now, could you imagine? Like, there's got to be somebody who can make at least a cartoon of Trump getting arrested, going into general population, and then just like getting swarmed by people, and all of the people in the jail cells around him in general population, and just like there's got to be somebody who can make a cartoon of him just like beating the shit out of all of these inmates that are trying to attack him. But imagine how many people would be motivated in a jail cell to try to attack Donald Trump. I don't know. There's a funny cartoon there somewhere that somebody could make. All right, so let's keep moving on. Right, there's far more people who should be being arrested than Donald Trump right now. Right, maybe it's Hunter Biden for one. Right, maybe we talk about Hunter Biden. Maybe it's the, I don't know, underage pictures of his niece that were found on his laptop, allegedly. Right, maybe it's the text messages where he's basically grooming that same niece of his to meet up with him in a bathroom in some store, allegedly. Right, maybe it's the $10,000 he asked his father for to pay off Russian prostitutes, allegedly. Maybe it's the facilitation of his father's political power to the Chinese or to Burisma or to Ukrainian companies that have to do with biolabs, allegedly. I'm sure there's a few things that we could point to that Hunter Biden could be arrested for. Maybe it's the crack pipe in his mouth, right? Like if there was a picture of Donald Trump with a crack pipe in his mouth sucking on Stormy Daniels' toes, that would be something that everybody could rally around him being arrested for. But there's not. But you know who there is a picture of that of? Is Hunter Biden. And nobody's going to arrest him. Right? There's far better reasons. Maybe we should go after George Bush for, getting us involved in a 20-year war over false pretenses. Right? Maybe there's something there. Right? Maybe there's something for him making billions and trillions of dollars for the military-industrial complex. Right? Maybe there's something around the Clintons. Right? Maybe that we'll get to in a minute. Maybe there's, I don't know, maybe go after Sam Hunt for doing demonic seances during the Oscars or wearing clothes that make him look like a tightly wrapped skirt steak. I don't know. Maybe there's some other people that we should talk about here that should be arrested. Not Donald Trump and his payment. Oh, did I mention that this was all 6 years ago? Right? This wasn't even a recent hush money scandal. Right? This was almost more than half of a decade ago that this happened, right? Speaking of George Bush, I saw this on Reddit a little bit ago, but speaking of George Bush, where did all the terrorists go, right? Has anybody else noticed that since the onset, like after the pandemic and everything and the U.S.'s withdrawal from Afghanistan, terrorists worldwide have just hit the snooze button on going after the West? They're just off sleeping in some cave somewhere, right? They just didn't realize the pandemic's over and are still quarantining, right? They took a gap year from their terrorist activities, right? For 20 years, terrorism topped the charts as the main conversation in every mainstream media platform, from Fox News, CNN, anywhere that you would look, right? They were talking about the Taliban. They were talking about Al Qaeda. Where'd they go? Right? Where are they? Where are they? What's going on there? Like just nothing. Well, except for those pesky little January 6th terrorists who only happen to show their faces just in time for the government's political narratives, right? Just in time for AOC to hide under a desk and take a selfie video, right? Yeah, the only terrorists we've seen in the wild just so happen to be wearing American flags on their shirt or hanging from their trucks, right? Quite convenient. Right. And this is another thing that I saw this Reddit thread allude to, is the fact that you would think during lockdowns, terrorism would have been at its worst. Right. There was already a massive amount of public fear. Right. There was already so much fear in the public psyche. Right. Were terrorists more scared of COVID than they were of the United States military? Nothing. Right. No Taliban, no Al Qaeda. Right. They swapped their, tightly laced combat boots out for some Crocs and are just playing Call of Duty all day instead of, crashing planes into large buildings, allegedly. Right? Seems pretty weird, right? There's still no more terrorist attacks going on. Anyways, right? Even North Korea seems to have like calmed down a little bit. Although I guess I saw something the other day that there was like 800,000 soldiers who happened to volunteer for North Korea, and they were calling on the United States, like being ready for some type of war with the US. Nothing to see there, right? At least nothing that the mainstream media wants you to talk about, because I only saw it on Real News No Bullshit. If you haven't heard me talk about them in a while, Real News No Bullshit, or Real News No BS, or online, that's their handle on like social media, or Real News Not BS.com is their website. Their social media is a little bit better than their website. Their website I paid for, but I don't feel like I get much out of it. But great way for, actual individual journalism, along with Atlas News is another good one. Anyways, right? Like ever since Trump, there's been no terrorism whatsoever, right? Nobody's, popping their head up. There's no new like leader that we're allegedly going after, right? I don't think Trump completely wiped out Al Qaeda, right? We basically just handed them the keys along with $80 billion worth of military equipment. And, now we're just not hearing from them. After massive deals for cobalt mining in Afghanistan with China, nonetheless, right? Kind of weird. I don't know what to think of that, but I did find it interesting, right? Another thing that I find interesting that we no longer see in the news, like speaking of lost narratives, Trump has sex with some random porn star, allegedly, and now there's no more aliens, right? It's magical how all the UFO conversations are just gone, right? There's nothing to be talked about in the news right now about aliens, UFOs, spacecraft. There's no conversations being had right now. Like all of a sudden, the aliens went away just in time for Donald Trump to be indicted for, paying off a porn star 6 years ago. Kind of bizarre, right? Isn't it strange how the world of politics and media can just absolutely blindside us with information just to hype us up, right? It's like this 1 month news cycle. Right? 1 minute, we're all on the edge of our seats, waiting for the next congressional hearing on UFOs. And all of a sudden, Trump pays off a porn star and all of our interests in aliens just takes a back seat. Right? That's an interesting concept to me, is like how often, how do we break that? How do we break the attention on the news cycle? Because if it's not aliens and literal motherships, like there was articles about a mothership releasing drones from space into our solar system, right? You want to talk about priming, right? If that's not actually happening, what are they priming us for? Because that's even far more concerning. But the fact that all of that news coverage, all of that news media, like you walk into work after freaking MSN BC comes out and says there's a mothership releasing drones into our world, and there's nobody talking about it. Right? Steve's still being an asshole in sales, right? Monica is still, not getting you over the email when she should be. Like George is still dropping the ball in HR, recruiting new people for your department. Like nobody's talking about alien motherships. What is it? What would it take for us to have a long-standing attention on something? Well, apparently it takes Donald Trump paying off a porn star. Like that has gone far more into the human psyche for a longer period of time than alien motherships. Right? I don't even know where to take that. It's just so bizarre to me, right? How much programming is involved, right? Like you would think alien motherships being released, releasing drones into our atmosphere, and the collective unconscious would be on that, like Hunter Biden on the floor looking for a piece of dropped crack, right? Like just sifting through the carpet looking for crack. But no, instead we're focusing on Trump's financial movements for a misdemeanor crime that he allegedly committed 6 years ago. It's all a little interesting to me, right? Now, on the backs of that, right now, let's actually talk about the Hunter Biden situation, because I think there's some few things that you missed there. Like, if you haven't dove deep into the Hunter Biden laptop, I did 2 full episodes on it, 2 full deep dives into the conversations months and months and months ago now. Right? You want to talk about who should actually be being arrested, right? You want to look at who's on the right side of history. Look at who the judicial system, who the mainstream media has been weaponized against, right? It's Trump, it's COVID, it's ivermectin, it's Joe Rogan, it's the conspiracy theorists, it's Robert Malone, right? You want to know who the people are who are telling the truth. Look to who the government is trying to actively silence. Look to who Snopes' next article was written about, right? I've been using probably too many good news sources recently, like Real News No Bullshit, like Atlas News, like some of these independent journalists like Matt Taibbi. I should probably just start going to Snopes with all of the conspiracy theories that have been proven to be true lately for my facts, right? Just assume everything on Snopes is real. And that's where the best news stories are. Seems like a better way of going about it. But if you actually go back to the Hunter Biden laptop, one of the most interesting cases that is not very much talked about, I guess there's been some more recent pictures that came out showing potentially Lady Gaga like smoking next to Hunter Biden. Like I saw a meme about Hunter Biden it was like Hunter Biden about to have sex, and it was him with like some military hat on with like 25 GoPros around his head. It seems like literally everybody that man has ever had sex with, he felt the need to take a picture of. One of them potentially being Lady Gaga, allegedly. Because there was a very, very, very similar looking woman in a picture with him with almost identical hair, nose, facial structure that he was standing next to, taking a selfie with. But another interesting one is, what is her name? Gosh, Obama's daughter, right? What is Obama's daughter's name? It's like Melania, or it's not Melania. That sounds like what is her name? Let's see if we can find it here. Yeah. Not Natasha, Malia. That's what it was. I was pretty close, right? Malia Malia Obama. There was pictures when she was underage during the time where apparently Malia Obama was in a picture naked, allegedly, with Hunter Biden, where she actually like had a debit or a credit card that somebody linked back to her because you could see a portion of her name on it with cocaine on it. There's so much in that laptop, and nothing's happened with that. That's why it's just so crazy to me that Trump is even being talked about, right? There's so many things that our judicial system, there's so many people that they should be going after. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the woman who just left office, the Speaker of the House, maybe you should be going after her for the $50 billion or whatever that Pelosi made from actively day trading the very things that she was currently working on writing legislation surrounding, or her husband. Now, there is one thing that I found, another thing that came up, which was that there was additional footage about Pelosi's husband and the hammer situation and stuff. And it doesn't exactly appear as it initially came off when the story came out, where it was like potentially his male lover, but I don't know. Maybe it was. Who knows? Maybe I'll check Snopes to see if they have anything to say about that. All right, but as I said at the beginning of this, there's 2 ways to think about body counts. The first way is Trump's body count in the sheets. The second way is actual body bags. And when we're talking about potential body counts for presidents, there's really one name that sticks out, and it's the Clintons. So We will jump into that in just a moment. But first, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Leave a 5-star review. Write something in there nice. That always helps out the podcast. It helps us get up in the rankings. And again, head over to austinadams.substack.com. It's the free podcast companion along with some articles that we write up on a weekly basis. And by we, I mean me when I have time, which is not very often, but I do try to get to it when I can. All right, so austinadams.substack.com. And thank you so much. One more time, please leave a 5-star review. It would mean the world. All right, you'll feel good about yourself. There's not too many things that you can do to get some good karma in this world that is easy and passive, but you have an app up on your phone right now, and you are listening to this app, and 1 out of 6 of you, at least 1 out of 7 of you that is listening to this right now, 1 out of 10, have not left a review, have not hit that 5-star button, right? And it would help tremendously if you are still listening to this podcast. I know you know how easy it is to leave a 5-star review. So go ahead and click that button. And then next episode, when we're talking about these things, the craziness that is going on in this world, you'll know. You'll have that fuzzy feeling in your stomach. So I will raise this Founder's Dirty Bastard Scotch Ale to you as you leave a 5-star review. And I'll even give you 10 seconds to do it. 10 seconds. And I will drink during that time, and then I will toast to you, and then I'll take another sip. Here we go. Hear that sound? I'll even clink you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Now, let's move on. Speaking of presidential body counts, why is there not an indictment about the former Clinton aide who literally shot himself in the chest and then hung himself 30 miles from his house, and the shotgun just so happened to be 30 feet from his body after he did so, right? If anybody's going to be indicted, right? Speaking of presidential body counts, if anybody's going to be indicted, it should probably be the people who have the same last name and have, 53 people around them who have in some way, shape, or form been connected to them that have unalived themselves. So, for years, the Clinton family has been surrounded by a seemingly endless string of mysterious deaths, right? Many of the deceased had ties to the Clintons, and even some possessed potential damaging information, this says. The coincidences are too numerous to ignore, and the intrigue only intensifies when we examine each case. I'm going to go on to list an astonishing list, over 50 people here who have been tied to the Clintons that have unalived themselves or been directly killed, that have been tied back to them in some way, shape, or form. But first, let's go ahead and pull up this audio here. There's a couple clips of some people that you might appreciate talking about the Clinton body count as we preempt this wonderful, beautiful list here together. All right. So the first one let's listen to is going to be from the Two Bears One Cave podcast, which is Tom Segura talking about this, which I find to be pretty funny. All right. And here we go.
Are insane.
Yeah.
Like you just get everybody's just like, you want in on this?
Yeah.
Also, would you like to give a speech?
Yeah.
It's $500,000.
Yeah.
For you to talk about what it was like to be president.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
When I was president, it was pretty wild.
Yeah.
Like it's fucking. You get $500,000 for that shit.
Big time.
They do a series, write a book. Here's a $15 million advance.
And they're not giving you that money to curry favor. They're doing it because they really want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
You want to hear what Hillary, we got to regulate Wall Street. And then you look at her tour schedule. She's like, Bear Stearns,
Yeah.
JP Morgan.
Yeah.
You're going, that's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that's a fun one, by the way. When you talk about conspiracy theories, the most fun one, I think, is the Clinton family stuff. Like, and
Fun.
because there's a lot of,
It's like 6 degrees of separation, but 6 degrees of death with Hillary Clinton. Yeah.
So many people that are like associated, former employees, colleagues, they're like dead, dead, dead.
Yeah.
Then, what is it? Clinton Road Epstein's plane like, I don't know, half a dozen times or
He-
more?
I think he was the pilot of it at
Yeah.
one point. Yeah, I think he was driving it.
He was always
Yeah,
on that
he
thing.
was fucking on that thing, dude.
And they're like, ask him about Epstein. He was like,
yeah, I mean, he was like a gold tier.
finance. We talked about money.
Yeah, that's it. He was like a gold medallion, like frequent flyer.
Frequent
he
flyer,
had a
yeah.
lot of miles on that plane.
What'd you do when you got to that island?
We golfed.
It's a beach. It's a
Yeah,
beach.
golf.
You ever
We
been
just
to an
really
island?
go- yeah.
They're great.
Golf.
Yeah.
We golfed on that tiny little secret island.
The amount of people that have died that were close to them. It's like a, have you look up Clinton body count?
Yeah, it's a little weird.
It is a little weird.
It's a little weird.
It is a fun one. I would get into. It's got his own Wikipedia. It's a discredited conspiracy theory. Excuse me.
Now they pulled up Wikipedia, and there is actually a Wikipedia page all around the Clinton body count. That is the title of the Wikipedia page. Clinton body count. There's so many, and then there's this creepy picture of both of them standing there with these murderous smiles on their face. Next to the words Clinton body count. Like, imagine there's no Trump body count. There's no Bush body count, although there should be for that one. I wonder how big that ticker would look like. But there is a Clinton body count Wikipedia page, an entire page dedicated to it.
Excuse me, please. Sorry for you. Alleged victims. There's former finance co-chairman Victor Razor, Mary Mohan, White House intern, didn't want to suck it, dead. Vince Foster.
Vince
of course,
Foster was a big one.
big one.
That was
Deputy
a
White
big
House counsel. Found dead in Fort Marcy Park in Virginia, outside Washington. Autopsy determined he was shot in the mouth. His death was ruled as suicide by 5 official investigations, but remains the subject of conspiracy theories for knowing too much about the Clintons. Seth Rich, everybody knows Seth Rich. Unsolved murder, still. Jeffrey Epstein, we talked about him. Christopher Sine broke the news of a meeting. Oh man, this was huge and was thought to greatly sway the election in 2016. This is when Clinton met with then Attorney General Loretta Lynch, and it was like we're on the tarmac. Hey, why don't you like pull that plane back up for a second? I want to have a quick chat.
Yeah.
And Sine was found dead in his Alabama home. His death was in.
Anyways, it is so crazy. There's a literal dedicated Wikipedia page, right? And how, there's so many people that have talked about this. Now, Epstein's an interesting one, right? And let me preface this all with this. These are all just conspiracy theories, folks. It's very, very possible that the Clintons have never done anything wrong at all. They're just very nice people with the best interest of our nation at hand, and just everybody has these silly little thoughts about them. Like, I don't know, you killed a bunch of people. All right, it's very, very, very real. I don't think the Clintons killed anybody. I'm winking. I don't think that at all, right? So, I like my life. I don't want to be found somewhere with a beautifully written note in a field somewhere that is cursive, that looks nothing like mine, stating how I am done with this world. So, this is all conspiracy theories. This is all thought experiments, folks. We're just messing around. So let's move on here. But Epstein's an interesting one, right? The reason that people think Epstein now again, in this fun little world of conspiracies, I don't think Hillary Clinton is walking around with a knife in a 6-shooter in her pocket and a cowboy hat with a mustache, killing all these people. I don't think that. I think they're probably allegedly hiring very, very high-cost mercenaries that all of these people in these very elite societies have some sort of access to. And this is something that you'll see next in the clip of Duncan Trussell and Joe Rogan talking about this. And by the way, Duncan Trussell, of everybody that I listen to, even more than Joe Rogan, even more, like, he's top 3 for me, right? It's like Lex Friedman, Duncan Trussell, would be my top two, right? And I can throw some other people in there: Russell Brand, Joe Rogan. Like, there's some great people out there that are Andrew Huberman that are doing great work in the podcast scheme. But Duncan Trussell's conversations with Joe Rogan. If you do nothing else with podcasts besides listen to my entire library, which I hope you do, go listen to every Joe Rogan, Duncan Trussell podcast, and then come back here and thank me. It's just incredible conversations. He's such an interesting dude, and we'll listen to them here in just a moment. But back to the conversation at hand. I don't think it's Hillary Clinton with a mustache and a cowboy hat and a 6-shooter and a knife walking around killing all of these people. They're very, very highly paid mercenaries all around the world. This is a real thing, right? The CIA, Red Squad, right? There's all of these different teams that go from being high up at the tip of the spear, special missions units in the military, in whatever country that they're serving, to going and making, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like it's probably a pretty strong possibility that if you are in one of those extremely, extremely high positions, there's some real money to be made if you can get in and get out of somewhere and do a dirty deed. Done dirt cheap, to quote AC/DC. Right? There's probably some money to be made. And if there was money to be made, right, the book deals that they're talking about, the $14 million advances, even if just, $250,000 goes to eliminating some random woman who accuses your husband of grabbing her ass during a campaign that you don't need that negativity on. $250,000 doesn't seem too bad. That's like a fifth of a speech at JP Morgan Chase for the Clintons. So let's listen to this next clip. This is Duncan Trussell and Joe Rogan talking about the Clinton body count. Now, to preface this, they are sitting here in the Revolutionary wartime wigs, big white wigs with big coats. It's a sight to be seen. But this is let's see if it even tells us which episode. No, but here we go. It's good stuff.
How many guys that have been killed or died, rather, I should say, by suicide, accidental suicide through autoerotic asphyxiation, when they have like a vibrator up their ass and they're wearing a fucking wetsuit and they're hanging. How many of those guys were just killed? What percentage?
A lot.
Half.
How many of them work for the fucking Clintons? There's your answer. Man, dude, that Clinton, the last, that's
who the last guy.
Wow, like they're not even trying to make it secret.
And we're gonna get to this one a bit too, but they talk about it in this. It's crazy. The most recent one that is like the most obvious Clinton, with the mustache and a 6-shooter and the cowboy hat situation is this one that they're about to talk about. It's so crazy that this is like, and Trump's getting indicted for moving money in the wrong place with a misdemeanor, and it's this huge ordeal.
It's so crazy. It's like you saying there's a Clinton body count makes you a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah,
like
there's how many, but like
it's just a lot of coincidences, Duncan.
You're not supposed to know that many people who've committed suicide. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I knew, if 30 people that used to work for me had committed suicide and I didn't have something to do with it, like, I would start going crazy. I would shut down my business. I'd be like, I don't know if it's me or it's something about me, but everyone who works for me, lots of people who work for me, they kill themselves. So I'm not doing it anymore. I'm going to like get a little apartment, just ride out the rest of my life.
I'm going to get a cabin and start writing books.
Write books, whatever. Just no, I don't want any more people to die. But yeah, that body count thing is really like.
What's the number?
What I don't know. I think it's, what's it up to, Jamie?
Supposedly 39?
39.
I think.
39 people that you've worked with have like died, like in the gym. They have these accidents. It's like,
imagine if Putin's body count's only like 20.
like it's way higher.
Yeah, if What is this?
Yes, I got
So
it.
Mark Middleton, dead at 59, Clinton special advisor who let Epstein into the White House 7 times, dies.
This is a Sun report, just so
Oh, the Sun. Of course.
for-
I'm reading how it's...
clarity.
So scroll up a little bit.
What's the Sun?
It's like, a lot of celebrity news and a lot of salacious news, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit fun. It's like a fun newspaper.
So
Like,
sad.
fun stories.
It doesn't talk
Wait, what
about
are they
the-
saying? Just so that
It
we
doesn't show the weird parts about it.
Just
unfortunately.
find the one where it shows it.
Yeah.
There's an article about his suicide. He hung himself with an extension cord and shot himself in the chest. with a
simultaneous.
shotgun.
Yeah.
Like, yo. I mean, this one is family of Bill Clinton advisor who admitted Jeffrey Epstein into White House 7 times has blocked release of files detailing the death scene after he was found hanging from a tree with a shotgun blast at a ranch 30 miles from his home. Kids. Monsters are real. Okay, here's the problem with conspiracy theories. There's so many people that are willing to jump on so many of them.
Yeah.
So many dumb ones that
Yeah.
it muddies the water and it makes the word a pejorative. Oh, you're a conspiracy
Yeah.
theorist. Like, you don't think that some people occasionally conspire? like, are we in denial of one of the most basic aspects of greedy people?
Sure.
To conspire? People with power that
Yeah.
control
No. They stopped.
giant swaths of the globe.
They don't do it anymore. They stopped. A long time ago, they used to. A long time ago. That was a long time ago. Wealthy people, royal courts, royalty, kings, or whatever. Yeah, it was intrigue, and they would poison people and kill them. But they stopped because wealthy people, they've learned how to be kinder and
The
nicer.
pharmaceutical company said they're sorry and they paid the money.
Yeah, everything's
it.
fine
It's
now.
over.
No, it
It's better
changed. The
now.
world changed. It
It's a
used to be
different
like
place.
that.
Yeah, the world's beautiful now. It's perfect.
Fine. No one would ever do that. No
It's
one
perfect.
would resort to that kind of murdering thing. Like,
Yeah.
nobody would. I mean, our armies do it, but aside from our armies, no people who are in charge of the armies would do it when they're off work.
When they're off work. So let's explore some of the lists here. So there's a
The attack happened here early Sunday morning. 27-year-old.
here's Seth Rich. Here's one of the most consistently talked about ones. So let's let this play for a minute because it just comes right up after that one, and we'll see if anything comes out of it. Seth Rich is one of the most famous cases about the Epsteins, about the Clintons.
Seth Rich, seen here in his LinkedIn profile picture, murdered as he walked in a neighborhood he called home.
Seth Rich was shot twice in the back in what police said looked like a botched robbery. He was taken to hospital but died 2 hours later, just one of 139 murders in the DC area last year. Still, the death of somebody linked to Hillary Clinton's campaign was enough to set the internet alight with theories about what might have really happened. In August, WikiLeaks offered a $20,000 reward, and then on Dutch television, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange suggested that Rich was his source for the Democrats' emails.
I'm suggesting that our sources take risks, and they become concerned to see things occurring like that.
But was he one of your sources then? I mean,
we don't comment on who our sources
but
are.
why make the suggestion about a young guy being shot in the streets of Washington?
Because we have to understand how high the stakes are in the United States.
And there...
Whoa. I didn't know that. The WikiLeaks leaker of the DNC emails with Hillary Clinton's emails was Seth Rich. I hadn't gotten that far in this reading yet. Whoa. That's crazy. And that was Julian Assange, the man himself, commenting in that video, talking about it. Wow. And you think he randomly got shot in the street? No way. Right? As Joe Rogan put it, you don't think people sometimes conspire? Like, you think that's a coincidence? Absolutely no way. Right? He leaks the Hillary Clinton emails, and all of a sudden he gets shot in the back twice in New York for no in a robbery? You shoot somebody in the back in a robbery? No. So let's go through some of this list here. Here's an astonishing list of individuals connected to the Clintons who met untimely ends, to say the least. All right, we'll go through some of these. I don't know if we'll go through all of them, but obviously that's a pretty damn good intro into it. Let's talk about Epstein, Seth Rich, right? Those are some pretty serious names tied to the Clintons. But let's go on, right? Okay. James McDougal was a key witness in Ken Starr's investigation, and Clinton's convicted Whitewater partner found dead in solitary confinement from an apparent heart attack. Mary Mahoney, former White House intern planning to expose her story of sexual harassment, was murdered in a Georgetown Starbucks. Vince Foster, former White House counselor and Hillary Clinton's colleague at Rose Law Firm, ruled a suicide by gunshot wound to the head. Ron Brown, Secretary of Commerce, former DNC chairman and potential whistleblower, died in a plane crash with a suspicious gunshot-like hole in his skull. Now, I will say that it's very hard to find, like they said about the Sun. It's like this list didn't come from Fox News, if that's your source of correct information. So take some of this with a grain of salt. But the fact that you can probably reverse engineer almost any one of these names and find the correlation and then find that they're dead in a very similar fashion to what they're talking about here. It says Victor Reiser and Montgomery Reiser, major Clinton fundraisers killed in a private plane crash. Paul Tolley, Democratic National Committee political director and Clinton confidant, found dead in Little Rock hotel room. Ed Willey, Clinton fundraiser, found dead with a gunshot wound to the head in the woods of Virginia, ruled a suicide, died the same day as his wife claimed Bill Clinton groped her. Jerry Parks, head of Clinton's gubernatorial security team, gunned down in his car. His son claimed Parks was building a dossier on Clinton. James Bunch, found dead from a gunshot suicide, reportedly had a black book containing names of influential people visiting prostitutes in Texas and Arkansas. James Wilson, tied to Whitewater, found dead in May 1993 from an apparent hanging suicide. I said whistleblower probably because of Julian Assange at this point. Kathy Ferguson, ex-wife of Arkansas trooper Danny Ferguson, was found dead in May 1994 in her living room with a gunshot to her head. It was ruled a suicide, even though there were several packed suitcases, as if she were going somewhere. Danny Ferguson was a co-defendant along with Bill Clinton in the Paula Jones lawsuit. Kathy Ferguson was a possible corroborating witness for Paula Jones. That is 11 of them. We can keep going. Bill Shenton, Arkansas state trooper, gunshot wound, ruled a suicide, critical of the suicide ruling of his fiancée, who was found dead in June. Gandhi Baugh, attorney for Clinton's friend, died of jumping out of a window in 1994. His client was a convicted drug distributor. Florence Martin, accountant and subcontractor for the CIA. Suzanne Coleman reportedly had an affair with Clinton when he was an Arkansas attorney. Died of a gunshot wound to the back of her head. Pregnant at the time of her death. Paula Grober, Clinton's speech interpreter for the deaf from 1978 until her death, December 1992. She died in one car crash. That might be bullshit, right? People die of car crashes. Danny Castellaro, investigative reporter investigating Mena Airport and Arkansas Development Finance Authority, slit his wrists apparently in the middle of his investigation into Clintons. Paula Weichner, John Walker, Barbara Weiss, says that Commerce Department staffer worked closely with Ron Brown and John Huang, cause of death unknown. Charles Messner, goes on and on and on. Dr. Stanley Hurd, right? How many people had to die? How many people died around them before you start to ask questions, right? Like, I don't know that many people that have died. Like, there's a small handful of people that I've run into, let alone people who have shot themselves. And maybe it's like 6th degree of separation, right? But like, these aren't 6 degrees. This is like 1st, 2nd degree, right? Kevin Ives and Don Henry, known as the Boys on the Track case. Reports say the boys may have stumbled upon the Mena, Arkansas's airport drug operation, the controversial case, the initial report of death said, due to falling asleep on railroad tracks. Later reports claim the two boys had been slain before being placed on the tracks. Many linked to the case died before their testimony could come before a grand jury. You get the point, right? And this even going all the way up to Hillary's 2016 presidential run. World-renowned space economist Molly McCauley, brutally murdered in Baltimore as she had testified before Congress many times. She was vice president at Resource for the Future and an adjunct professor at Johns Hopkins University. She was stabbed to death while walking her dogs in Baltimore Park. Her name is on this list because of her ties in Washington, as well as her death just days before the murder of Seth Rich. Interesting. And then we get to Seth Rich, right? If none of these other ones even matter, right? Like, let's talk about the, 8 or 9 bodyguards that were in there. If none of those matter, you want to talk about Seth Rich. That is one of the craziest ones, right? In this article that I found, even talks about it being a possible connection. Julian Assange just told us everything but the fact that he was the one that gave them that information, right? Gave them access to all of the emails. Crazy. And then it goes on to talk about John Ash, Victor Thorne, Sean Lucas, and the list goes on, right? So many people, from whistleblowers to bodyguards. These deaths should at least raise some eyebrows. If you have 52 people around you that are in some way or shape or form associated with you, or were coming after you in some legal manner, and they just so happen to die, and it's somehow always related to potentially suicides, gunshot wounds, right? There's a fair amount of plane crashes, right? And then Mark Middleton, right? The one that Joe Rogan and Duncan Trussell were talking about. But as the body count climbs, the likelihood of this, think of the likelihood. How many people do you know that have died? Now think of how many people you know that have died tragically. Now think of how many people you know that have died tragically, were coming after you legally, and also so happen to commit suicide. The statistics aren't in their favor. So as we talk about this, Donald Trump is being indicted for moving money to pay off an NDA from a home equity line. That's what we're talking about here. For his body count with a porn star next to the 52 names that I just listed that have to do with the Clintons. And I'm sorry if I bored you with some of those names, but it's just pretty wild when you go through some of them. And again, I'm not claiming some of those or all of them, or even one of them has to do with the Clintons and Hillary with a mustache and a cowboy hat and a 6-shooter going off and killing all these people. But I am saying it's pretty damn weird. Maybe the Manhattan District Attorney should be looking at that instead of Trump's payments to Stormy Daniels from a possible home equity line. Like he mismarked his tax return, right? Maybe, just maybe, that's something that should be considered. But I thought that was a fun way of going about this conversation, right? The body count compared to the body count, right? Trump's 1 body count with Stormy Daniels sexually compared to the 52 body counts of the Clintons' murdery sprees, allegedly, is an interesting comparison, to say the least. So on that note, thank you so much for listening today. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I truly do. I love doing this. It amazes me every day that we have such an awesome community. Follow me on Instagram, The Adams Archive, Truth Social, The Adams Archive, everywhere you get your podcasts. We have a YouTube channel, right? YouTube. You can watch the video every single week. I post the video the very next day after the podcast gets released, and you can actually watch the video. You can watch the videos that we're watching alongside of me. At the YouTube channel, okay? It's just The Adams Archive. Search that. You'll find me, see my face, and we'll go from there. But, all right, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I love you. I'll talk to you soon.